Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of ChetChat. So on the show today with me is Dr. Vinita Suri. She's a PhD in stress management, a CBT counselor and a founder director of Satori Counselling. So hey Vinita, welcome to the show.
Hi Chetna.
And the first thing I want to ask you is parents write in, students talk about stress. There's stress while they're applying for colleges, there's stress while they're in college, trying to do a startup, there's stress all the time. So could you tell us a little bit about the signs and symptoms of stress?
So kids generally feel stressed whenever the demands on them exceed the coping resources.
So the demands on the child from the external environment.
Yeah, whatever are the pressures, it could be admissions, it could be studies, it could be a job, it could be a job interview. So for example, coping resources could be the skills, the health, the energy, the time on hand, the support from parents that they have. So whenever they find themselves in a situation where the external environmental demand is far bigger than the coping resources that they have, that's when they experience a lot of stress.
Okay, so I can see parents could potentially be sitting on the demand end or on the coping ability end.
Yes, because sometimes parents put a lot of pressure on the children, and that adds to the demands that they're already facing. Parents on the other hand can be a source of big support for the kids, so it's really, they play a very big role in the entire dynamic of the amount of stress the child is undergoing.
So Vinita, when the child is going through stress and it's obvious to the parent or the adult around the child, how can this adult help the child?
I think the biggest thing that parents can do is at such times keep channels of communication open. They really need to spend more time listening to the child. And that's one of the biggest problems I encounter, that parents don't actually listen to the children.
So could you give us an example of how a parent could listen effectively?
Let's take a case where a child is refusing to cooperate. The parents probably want them to do a particular course,
right,
or take a particular career path, and the child is just refusing to go along with it.
Okay.
Very often communication just breaks down.
Yeah.
As a parent, what one really needs to do is try and understand what the child is saying first of all. What are his concerns, what are his hesitations. He then needs to go a little deeper and try and understand what the child is feeling. And a child will not always express clearly.
Right.
Yeah, it could be that he's anxious, he feels he doesn't have the requisite skills for the particular course. And then even go a little deeper and understand what the intention of the child is and what the deepest desire of the child is. Children are not just wanting to do nothing.
Correct. Yeah.
They want to do something with their life. They're confused.
Yeah.
It could be that they're just struggling to figure out what their unique strengths are. So listening really means going deep down to that level of understanding the emotions, understanding the deepest desire, and the deepest desire of people is usually positive.
Right.
We just assume
Yes.
that the other person is a good for nothing.
Parents just say my child is just lazy, or they just want to take the easy way out.
Exactly. So when children also feel that parents are not listening, they're not understanding, then they stop talking.
Right. If a parent walks into a child's room and discovers a few things that surprise them, which were taboo, for example,
Cigarettes.
yeah. Now, how does a parent react to a situation like that?
For difficult conversations, timing is the most important thing. Being a parent is one of the most difficult jobs on the planet, because you really don't know, how far to push the boundaries. So even if you discover something which is a real shock to you, something that you never expected you would find in your household, take it in, calm down, and then when the time is right, bring up the topic of conversation And at this point, again, how you express yourself is even more important than what you say. Just as we talked about listening and about listening having 3 levels,
right,
wherein you try and understand the words, the emotions, and the deepest desire of the person. When we are talking now as a parent, we are sharing our views. We have to share our feelings
and the intent,
and our deepest desire.
Right.
And it's always helpful to start with your deepest desire. So for example, in this case, you can even start by telling the child what you're feeling, which is that, okay, I'm feeling extremely anxious about this and I have discovered this and I'm very worried about it. What is your deepest desire from the exchange? For the child to be happy, healthy,
right,
not go down a path that is destructive. So even when we are sharing, we have to do so in a much calmer and a more constructive manner, which will allow the communication to, have some beneficial outcome rather than just break down.
Yeah. So when does advice come into all this? Giving advice to the child?
It's useless giving advice because you express your views, you express your concerns, you express what you really want, what your intention is, and then you leave it at that. Children will pick up what they feel is, of value.
True.
When it comes to teenage years, a very important thing to keep in mind is that no matter what you say or do, there is a certain period of time when you probably will not get through.
Right.
But I have seen from experience that after some time, some of the things that you've said
come back.
Yeah. Yes.
Another thing I find is that there's one extreme of parent placing high demands on the child, and there's now another extreme of parent that's a little aware, that feels that if I remove all expectations, that's good parenting. So I've often seen them talking to the child or in front of the child and saying, my child is not really capable of this, my child really doesn't need to be stressed with this, or they're not able. Now, how much of an impact does that have on the child?
I think the key thing here is balance. Both extremes are counterproductive, because if expectations are too high and they're not aligned with the strengths of the child, then there is a problem, it becomes pressure. If your expectations are too low, then the child is not going to step up and at all do anything.
Between giving the confidence and helping him set his bar right enough without feeling the stress, it's really finding that soft point.
Yeah. See, confidence, now since you talked about confidence is really belief in one's ability to do something. Parents often come to me and say, how can I make my child more confident? At age 20, 25 is not the time to
build
start.
confidence. Yes.
Yeah, it starts much earlier, and there are 2 things that contribute to confidence. One is experience. The more we encourage our children to experience new things, the more confident they get. In our culture, we literally spoon feed the children till way beyond the recommended age. Yes. But again, here I would say there's a word of caution that you have to push the child to move out of his comfort zone, but at the same time watch over the child. You can't just push the person into the deep end and hope that he will learn how to swim. You have to watch over the child, then again nudge, then again watch over, so that little bit of balance is needed there too. And the second thing, like I said, was it's reflected. So if you show that you believe in the child, and the child is capable of doing something, then the feeling comes in that yes, I can also do it.
Yeah, and they'd like to honor that belief.
Correct. Yeah.
So Vinita, we've all heard about a parent being a friend rather than a parent, but in my view, what I see is sometimes parents are going too far being a friend now, perhaps trying to appease the child in some way. So what are your views on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think boundaries are very critical. When we try and communicate with them at their level, and try, like you said, appease them constantly, then we are actually doing them a big disservice.
Right.
Because when it comes to bringing up children, it's like love and discipline are like water and sunshine for a plant. You cannot just give them one and not the other.
Vinita, some parents say that they're not even able to get the child to on the same couch to even start that conversation, let alone take it forward and what are you saying and what sort of conversation.
I agree. Especially, like I said, those teenage years, they're not going to sit and listen to you. What is actually heartening and surprising is, 93% of communication is actually non-verbal. It's good. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because if we want to teach our children something, then we just have to do it. For example, there was this parent who had come to me, and the child was overly obsessed with weight and appearance, and almost bordering on anorexia, and the mother was very concerned. And she would keep telling the child that you should eat healthy and eat more. But the fact of the matter was that the mother herself was obsessed with how she looked and her weight, and the only conversation in the house was about calories. And so if we want to send a message across to the child, we don't have to worry too much whether they are spending time with us or are they having conversations with us. We just have to do it.
And one last but really important thing that children these days struggle with is peer pressure. Whether it's substance or needing to go out or needing to be a certain way, is a lot dictated by the peers. So how can children stand up for themselves and not get taken in by what everyone else around them is doing?
See, it all comes back to confidence and self-esteem. Even more than academics, more than careers, etc., if we focused on building the child's confidence, that's going to take him much further than anything else. And closely linked to confidence is self-esteem, which is the amount of love that a person has for himself. It's about loving ourselves with our strengths and our weaknesses. And just as confidence is reflected, so is self-esteem reflected.
Right. So if you're constantly judging them on their weaknesses.
Exactly. If the focus is only on their weaknesses, they're not going to, develop self-esteem.
Yeah, so I've seen two types of parents. One that would possibly focus only on the weaknesses, hoping that, listen, we're trying to improve them. There's another extreme that, a child makes a doodle and they think it's a Picasso. So where is the real?
I would err at the end of, praising the child more than criticizing.
Okay.
Because criticizing does not accomplish anything.
Okay. And the hard knock school of life will bring them down anyway. So whatever we give them now.
Yeah. Like I said, discipline is important, boundaries are important. Yeah. But at the same time, we have to keep a balance. We can't be so tough on the child, hoping that if I'm tough on the child, he's going to toughen up. Bringing up a child is a bit like riding a horse. You pull in the reins too tight and the horse will revolt. And if you let it too loose, it's just going to wander off. So it's always that critical balance.
Wow, I think that was fabulous. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people watching the show.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Please click the subscribe button below. Like me at facebook.com/ChetChat101. Follow my Twitter handle, ChetChat101, or at Instagram, ChetChat101. Please leave your comments in the sections below. And if you'd like me to feature any particular college, please let me know. Thank you.